All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Green White Checker TV. Say a little bit of a miscue here. Unfortunately, a certain person shall be unnamed. Kind of forgot about setting things up correctly so we could watch Steve do a lap here around Worldwide Technology Raceway, aka Gateway. So we're gonna do a quick little run around here in my lack of practice IR18. And so we're gonna do a couple things. We're gonna mention a couple critical things tonight. Say first of which is going to be our turn 1 and turn 2, or turn 1, turn 2, and turn 3 and turn 4. Turn 3 and 4, a much wider apex. You can really kind of hustle the car through this turn. A little less banking, but a lot wider radius, so you can take this turn a lot quicker. And then as you head into turn number 1 and 2 here, it's a much narrower radius turn, but more banking. So you have a little bit of both things to kind of play with, to compare with here. And then, of course, I think what's going to be the most critical thing here tonight, Steve, is going to be pit road. If we get green flag pit stops, they're going to be using the access road here coming into turn number 3. They're going to come right here. They're going to have to try to get the car woe down so it doesn't wash up, because what you might see a lot tonight is drivers might get too hot, wash all the way up the track, possibly spin out, may have get into anybody else around them. So what they want to do is they want to try to get it down to speed here, and then the next thing, of course, is then they got to get it down to pit speed right there at those cones to be able to not miss their pit marks. And then the other thing that we're going to go over as well is going to be the pit exit, Steve. I think that's also going to be a critical juncture, because it's going to be so tempting to just gas it really hard out of the pits, and it's really easy to spin out here. So you can see very flat, going to be probably be pretty greasy as well as they come through this very flat, very tight turn until they get the blue cone, and then they can send it off onto the backstretch. I think those are going to be very crucial parts. But Steve, I know you've been putting down a lot of laps in practice, in race trim. What were things that you were able to notice here tonight?
It's going to be a very tricky track. It's probably a cross between an oval and a road course with the way they have to drive it. There's going to be a lot of gear shifting. Going into turn 1, you definitely have to use some, if not a lot, of brake. You have to get the car slowed down enough so that it doesn't wash up in the turn, but you also have to be very careful in 1 and 2. Like you mentioned, that it's narrower, but it's banked. It's not banked enough to prevent you from pushing off into the wall on exit if you get overzealous on the gas. I found that what was working best for me was braking as early as I could and letting the car slow down, and then getting down to 3rd gear, and then I got back up to 5th gear on the back straight. And turn 3 and 4, I feel like I never quite figured out how to get around that properly, but you can take it almost flat out, even though it's a flat turn, almost flat out in 5th gear. You have to just kind of crack the throttle some. And once again, if you carry too much speed through there, you're going to push off the turn and hit the wall. So I think what we're going to see tonight is some separation of cars, just based on people wearing tires, people not getting in the right gear, people starting to push off the turns because they didn't quite take them properly. So it's going to be a very technical race.
Yeah, I think it's getting very interesting. Obviously, last week was the season, or I should say, the playoff opener with that number 90, or sorry, that number 89. Apologies, of Nick DeGroot getting a big win at Pocono. So he's going to go into that into the second race now with a 7-point lead over Henry Bennett. You see Andrew Wood there in third to say he actually relinquished his spot in the playoffs due to having to miss some races, including tonight, unfortunately. So that added a ninth driver, but to put it back to 8 basically. So kind of officially you're going to have Charles Teed basically in that third spot in points, Matt Wagner 4th, Alec Coates 5th, and then you have Craig Forsyth, Jeff Heisung, Jim Brooks rounding out our final playoff contenders. However, qualifying has just completed, Steve, and so we're going to have a little bit of I wouldn't say a mixed bag here, but we're going to have a little bit of a different starting grid here with some playoff drivers, some non-playoff drivers. So we're going to pull that up here so we can see exactly where all of our drivers are for tonight. And it's going to be Anders Arhus on pole position by about half a tenth over Henry Bennett. Then you got Jimmy Drynan there in third, Craig Forsyth 4th, Alec Coates in 5th. In 6th, you got Bud Steele, Charles Teed 7th, Jeff Heisung in 8th, Matt Wagner 9th, Nick DeGroot in 10th, Yari Brupacher 11th, and then Jack Walls in the 12th position. And we'll run through the remainder of the field here. You've got Michael Spell 13th, Gary Corley in 14th, and you have Jim Brooks in the 15th position. And then Joseph Morales and James Ledford and Joseph DeCiro are going to round out the remainder of the grid. So I think we're going to have about 18, I believe 18 cars. I believe taking part might be 17, depending if some don't grid. So a little shorter field here as well tonight. I'd say a little surprised by that. We had a really good count last week at Pocono, so a little surprised to see the drop here tonight. But again, though, it's going to be a non-playoff contender here. That number 10, the number 10 of Anders Arhus with that pole position. So he's definitely been one to watch a lot this season. Just didn't have the breaks go for him to make the playoff. But obviously he's going to be looking to get a top 3 finish tonight, or even possibly a race win. But he's going to have some pretty tough competition with this race being 125 laps. Pit window sounds like, Steve, should be roughly in the low to mid 30s. I've been hearing anywhere from about 32 to 35 range, which is going to put us right in smack in a 3 pit stop window should we go green tonight. But as difficult as this track is, I think we're going to see a little bit of extra action here tonight.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious, whether we're going to mostly see one-car incidents from, people just underestimating how they should get around the turns. But I don't foresee a lot of multi-car accidents at this track.
It's going to be interesting. I do think we're going to see some drivers kind of get loose in the middle. I think 1 and 2 is going to be the trouble turn for me. I think with that extra banking and the tighter radius, it's going to be easier to make those mistakes. And what I think is going to happen is I think those solo incidents are going to wind up causing a multi-car incident because of how fast these cars are going. It's just really difficult to avoid any of that contact. So we'll have to wait and see. Again, 125 laps is the race distance. Remember, there are no green-white checkered attempts here on this series, so 125 laps will be it once we start getting down to crunch time. So it's going to be the number 10 of Anders Arhus on the front row with Henry Bennett. Once wait for that green flag to fly, and we will get things started here. As the green flag flies, we are underway at Worldwide Technology Raceway. Anders Arhus trying to lead Henry Bennett into turn number 1. Looks like so far so good, Steve.
Yep, and you notice that Henry Bennett had the advantage on the outside. In turn 1 and 2, it definitely is a little bit more difficult the lower you are in the turn, because you just have to pinch it off too much coming off the turn.
Yeah, I think that's where having the on potential restarts, having that outside line, I think, or I should say, having the control of the restart. If we get a caution, I think that's going to be crucial to give you that clean air and be able to get to that position to maybe try to get to that top side. The single file restart. So to basically be able to control and have that clean air and be on the top groove. So you're right, though. I think Henry Bennett able to take advantage of that top groove through 1 and 2. So almost maybe a benefit of starting second tonight with having that top line tonight.
It definitely worked out on the start.
Yeah, so right now, say not a lot of movers, little drivers here getting a spot or two. However, one driver, last week's winner, Nick DeGroot, he's already +4, Steve. He's from 10th to 6th here on these opening laps now, right behind that 6 of Bud Steele. So good opening couple, quick opening laps for Nick to jump some quick spots early before the field started spreading out. And you see now he's going to look underneath that 6 car, see if he can try to grab this 5th spot from that 6.
Yep, and there you saw the advantage of getting a run off the turn on the outside.
Yeah, I see he drops it all the way down to 4th gear there, Steve, through turns 1 and 2. I'm curious to see what he does here in turn number 3. I suspect it'll probably be a 5th gear. You see he's going to take the car way high here to try to get that clean air on the nose. And you see how he kind of gets a late apex to try to get a big run on the exit. So he's got a good draft off of Bud Steele, but Bud's also got a good draft off of Jimmy Dryden, so that's what's holding them pretty steady right now. Let's say both drivers running really solid laps here early on. But you can see Nick is very key and eager here to try to get that spot as fast as he can. Just hasn't found a way to get around that number 6 car as he gets right onto the rear wing of that number 6 car here through 3 and 4.
So are you seeing them going only down to 4th gear in 1 and 2?
So far from Nick DeGroot, yeah, I saw 4th gear for him in 1 and 2. Well, we obviously haven't jumped around and checked all the cars on track yet. So we can definitely peek around and see what various drivers are doing. Let's start here, Steve. We'll start with Henry Bennett. He's in 5th gear here through 3 and 4. Let's listen in and watch also to see what he does in 1 and 2. I suspect it'll be 4th gear as well, especially with the clean air. But we'll see. It actually looks like 4th gear. It looks like the same for him. You can definitely see the revs do drop a fair bit, so wonder if that's something that maybe keeps those rear tires in a little bit more control instead of having to really rev it up high. So we can check the same thing here with our second place driver of Anders Arhus. Right now for Anders, he was 5th gear as well through turns 3 and 4. Let's see as he sends it into turn number 1. And yes, Steve, so you're talking about, you mentioned that 3rd gear. Anders is down into 3rd there through 1 and 2. So that's also likely going to burn a little bit more fuel than Henry Bennett using those longer gears running 4th through 1 and 2.
Yeah, that's a good point. I wonder what that does to the tires also.
Yeah, I could see it actually burning the tires up a little bit extra as well. So that is actually a really great point you make, Steve. So right now, though, they hold about a solid 5/6 tenths of a second off of one another. We'll jump back with that battle with Nick DeGroot. He's still trying to find a way around Bud Steele. Hasn't had an opportunity to do so yet. We saw Charles Teed. He was able to grab that spot a little earlier. He's up into 7th. And then Matt Wagner's only gained 1 thus far here into that 8th position. So right now our playoff contenders all spread out a little bit throughout the field here. Obviously Henry leading right now, Craig in 3rd. Then you got Nick DeGroot, Charles Teed, Matt Wagner, Alec Coates, Jeff Heisung all right together from 6th to 10th. And then a little further back, Jim Brooks, who I believe opted not to put down a qualifying lap. He's a little bit further out towards the back of the field here in 14th. He did get a spot on Gary Corley, but obviously a long ways to go for where he wants to be come kind of crunch time in this race.
Watching Henry Bennett's line around turns 1 and 2, and it looks like he's taking kind of a late high entry and then doing a late apex, which is kind of interesting because that definitely helps keep him from pushing out into the wall on exit. I kind of like what he's doing here.
Yeah, and I think this is where you're right, though. You can see almost runs that 3rd line on entry, but then he's able to really cut it down. And I think you're exactly right. I mean, you think about how long the straightaways are here. I mean, the more you can straighten the exit, the better you're going to get these exits off the turn straighter exits. So we're going to jump back, though, because Nick DeGroot, again, trying to get after Bud Steele here to try to get that top 5. He's seen side by side out of 3. Now it's going to be a drag race between the two of them. Unlike the road courses, there are no push to passes here. So for Nick, he's just going to have to try to do it all on momentum. And it looks like he's just going to be able to barely clear that 6 of Bud Steele. We'll see if Bud tries to see if he can cross him over. But I think that option got closed off with Charles Teed. Now going to try to follow through and see if he can move himself up another spot.
kind of makes for an interesting situation when you've got a non-playoff driver that's running as fast as the 3 playoff drivers around him. How aggressive is he going to be with these guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough balance to do because, of course, I mean that's something that they always compare with motorsports to football and hockey and all those types of other sports where it's like in racing you're battling the drivers that are your championship rivals, but at the same time you're also battling, like in this case tonight, with it looks like about 17 drivers on track. So you got 8 playoff drivers, and then you've got 9 drivers that are not in the playoffs. So it's a really tough balance to be able to fight with, and I think Bud probably I think he saw that situation there, and he's rolled out of it in the 6 car. Let Charles Teed on by, let Matt Wagner on by, so he's going to drop a couple of spots, and actually gets really tight in that arrow wash, I think, off the 11, catches the wall a little bit off of 2. Don't think it's going to hurt him too badly. Going to cost momentum. That's going to let Alec Coates sneak on by him as well. But yeah, so unfortunately, a little bit of a mistake by Bud there. But I think he'll be able to recover from that, though. Again, still very early in this one.
Yeah, it looks like he got in there too hot and just washed up into the wall. But I noticed that I saw their mics getting keyed up, and it was pretty obvious that he was letting the playoff drivers go. He didn't want to interfere with their ability to catch the guys that he had let go in front of them.
Yeah, that's always nice. Again, we kind of talk about the respect a lot of these drivers have with one another here. And saying actually with that contact, looks like actually Bud Steele's just hit pit road. So whatever it was, I think it was enough for him to affect his car. We got a good little battle going on right just a little further back of where we just were. You've got right now Jeff Heisong, Jack Walls, Michael Spell, all within pretty much a car length or 2 of each other. Jack trying to get around the 18, I should say, of Jeff. But again, you can see he gets the run here on the entry, and he gets a good exit off, but we'll see if he can make that pass happen through 1 and 2. Again, we talked about the tighter radius turn there, and you can see, yeah, that looks like the 18 able to really kind of just rotate the top a little better and carry that momentum on the exit.
Boy, that's the kind of situation where, if you're Jeff Heisong, you're sitting there going, come on, man, please don't do this. I'm in the playoffs. I'm trying to catch the guys ahead of me.
Yeah, and it's so difficult to balance that, Steve. Is you of course you want to be able to try to make these moves happen to try to gain spots and not give up too much time, but at the same time, like I said, I mean for Jack Wells, Michael Spell, they probably feel like, hey, I think we got more pace right now than you, Jeff. I know you're in the playoffs, but I say we don't want to just sit and ride either. Say we got something to prove for ourselves. And I mean, I think one of the main ones showing that here is Anders R, who's started on the pole right now, running second. Has lost a little bit of ground to Henry, of course. Say with Henry having all the clean air he could hope for. But I think Anders showing also. I mean, you can definitely be in contention for these races week in and week out. Even if you're not in the playoffs. So it'll be fun to see what Anders has in store for these guys as the run continues on. Saying Matt Wagner, speaking of playoff battles, though, Matt Wagner starting to put some pressure on Charles Teed here to try to get Matt up into that 6th position.
Yep, and right now, let's see, Matt is in the 4th position as far as 5th as far as playoff drivers go. So obviously he'd like to improve that.
Now you can see he is right over the rear wing of that 5 car. But again, he gets a little bit of aero wash, but right now it looks like he's pretty content to just ride right now behind Charles Teed. So maybe a little bit of fuel pit strategy for the 11 car here, maybe trying to make some numbers happen in his favor. I don't foresee anybody be able to pull a 2-stop strategy, but as we mentioned in the pre-race though, Steve, that this pit entry, it's a very, very treacherous one. Actually, we're going to jump a little further up because Nick DeGroot, I believe, just got around Jimmy Dryden, so move Nick now up into that 4th position. So Nick's slowly but surely working his way back forward as well. Not the qualifying lap he was hoping for, but making the most of it here early on. So now we'll jump back to this battle for 6th, though, with Matt Wagner and Charles Teed. So yeah, I wonder, maybe Matt here trying to run long here just in case of a caution under the pit stop cycles, get a little bit extra fuel in that car, go a little bit longer than the rest of the field, and maybe try to trap a bunch of cars a lap down if things kind of go perfectly for you.
Yeah, Matt tends to be the one that doesn't like to worry about saving fuel and just run it as hard as he can. But it does look to me like you're right. Like he is on a fuel saving strategy right now.
Yeah, I mean, you can see he's just really cruising off the back of the 5 car of Charles Teed. So it's going to be fun to see what they have in store with them. Say Michael Spell, Jack Walls, will say that battle continues on here right outside the top 10. Right now, Jeff Hysong has it. Jack and Michael trying to get it. Let's say you can see Jack's fallen off a little bit, not much off the 18 car, but that's brought Michael right back into this as well. And then just a little further back as well, James Ledford, he's starting to put some pressure on the 60 of Joseph Morales. And I'm wondering if that 51 of Jim Brooks, maybe some damage to that 51 car, because it seems like the pace just is not there right now. Not sure if just discomfort with the track, or say maybe we saw, or maybe caught the wall a little bit off of one of the turns like we saw happen to Bud Steele. But whatever it is, unfortunately, that 16 car right now sitting as the last car on the lead lap at the moment. Or sorry, 51 car.
And he's 14 seconds behind the leader.
Yeah, I'm looking at the lap times, and he is right now running about 2 to 3 tenths a lap slower. Last time I was at 26.56 to leaders 26.19. So yeah, so I mean about 3.5 tenths right there. As now looks like Matt Wagner is going to make a move here. He's been following Charles Teed. Now he decided, okay, now it's time to go, and he's going to try to take this pass here through 3 and 4. But Charles Teed isn't going to give this one up easily here, as they're going to stay side by side as they come out of 4.
Yep, and Charles Teed pulls a little bit ahead. I think he'll have the advantage here on the outside.
And we're getting right to that fuel window here again, Steve. Let's say we're on lap 30, 125. We talked about that window probably being around 33, I believe, is roughly the number to make it on the 3 stopper. So we'll see how far some of these drivers can go. We don't know, of course, who's running how aggressively, because there's a lot of things you can do with these cars to save fuel. Obviously, of course, if you're drafting, you can kind of just do it that way. These cars have a lot of in-car adjustments. You got the fuel maps you could be using as well. So there's a lot of potentials for fuel saving with this whole group here. And saying while we're watching that, I'm going to move a little further forward, because Nick DeGroot, he's starting to close a little bit up on Craig Forsyth. So I'll say, again, Nick's trying to pick him up and put him down here pretty quick and early on. 6 spots gained for him since his 10th starting spot. And, of course, as soon as I do that, I believe Matt Wagner has just cleared the 5 of Charles Teed. So move Matt now up into that 6th spot. But Charles looks like he may be trying to think about a crossover. And it looks like he's going to roll out of it, though.
Yeah, he thought about it and changed his mind.
The temptation was there. I also need to mention, Jack Walls did get around Jeff Hysong, Steve. So Jack's got some clean air, and he's starting to put down some pretty good laps in that 83 car as well. So I think it was just like we talked about. We know that Jeff's in the playoffs, but Jack felt like he had more pace, and he's kind of showing it here. Got around Jeff, and he's starting to put some distance on him, as it looks like Joseph Morales is going to be the first driver to hit pit road here. He was a little further down the running order, so I don't think we'll see too many people react to this. But I do think we're going to see pit stops here opening up very shortly. As I say, leaders are starting to run now lap number 35, or 34, I'm sorry. So I think that's going to be about time. Alec Coates, actually, as I say that, he hits pit road in that number 3 machine.
Have you noticed how much lap times have fallen off? Because I haven't paid attention to that.
I believe it's been up, not a lot, about a half a second from what I'm seeing. As actually, here comes some of our leaders now. Anders Arhus, Craig Forsyth, they both hit pit road here together, coming to 35. So that's the first of our leaders to hit pit road. So that's going to leave Henry Bennett now up into lead, with Nick DeGroot now up to 2nd. But here comes Henry. He's going to hit pit road again. We talked about the very treacherous pit entry here. So he's got to make sure he kind of is on the top of his game. Hopefully all these drivers practice this pit entry, because that's going to be, I think, the name of the game here. As it looks like he hits pit road. Nick DeGroot coming in with him. It looks like pretty much everybody's coming in now here, Steve. Say everybody's able to run pretty much the same number here. Michael Spell, though, he's going to stretch that 88 car a little further here. And I think just got his nose ahead to get a lap lead as well. You see, Michael's going to set into the pit road now as well, bring James Ledford with him. So I believe this is going to complete the cycle over the course of just a couple of laps here. So I'll say we see Michael heading in. You've got 48 heading back in as well. And I believe this is going to cycle Henry Bennett back to the point. We'll have to wait till everybody gets fully up to speed again. Craig Forsyth was one of the earlier pit stop drivers that pitted there. And it looks like he's going to actually be able to leapfrog Anders Arhus in the 10 to the second spot. But you see Nick DeGroot there coming out right behind him in fourth. So we've got a pretty close group between second, third, and fourth positions now.
Yeah, I'm trying to, it's probably I can't tell yet, but I'm curious to see if Nick DeGroot gained any time on Henry Bennett during the pit stop, because his lap times were pretty comparable to what Henry was running. If he can get anywhere close, we might actually have a race for the lead.
Yeah, so I think right now for Nick, he's going to need to try to find a way to get around the 10 and the 27 to have a real opportunity at them. So we're going to pull up those pit stop times, though, or pit lane times, I should say. So it doesn't really give us the entry and exit laps. Of course, that would be, I think, the telltale how aggressively they're able to get in and then get back out on track. But I must say, though, hats off to all the drivers, as they did a great job. I don't think I saw any mistakes from anybody on those pit stop cycles. Everybody had about the normal 7 to 8 second pit stops. But pit lane time, Henry Bennett with a 38.1, Craig Forsyth 37.9, 38.0 for Anders Arhus, 38.3. So, I mean, everybody was right on top of each other here on their pit stop time. Everybody, like I said, just right around that 38, 37 second bracket, probably about a second or so between them all. So, everybody really on top of their game. And while we were watching that, though, Matt Wagner just got around Jimmy Drynas to move Matt up into the top 5 now. +4 for him. Of course, didn't have quite the start or the qualifying position he was hoping for, but now he's starting to make some ground up under race trim.
And really, probably the best battle on the track right now is Nick DeGroot, Anders Arhus, and Craig Forsyth, because those three are all running together. They're not quite close enough yet to challenge for position, but I think we're going to start seeing some of that pretty soon.
Yeah, we got a couple little blocks of cars, basically. Like I said, you got second, third, and fourth here, all within pretty close proximity. And same thing goes now with Matt Wagner. And as you say, there goes Charles Teed. He's going to get around Jimmy Drynan, so move Charles up into the 6th position. They're having a nice little battle there as well. And then just a little further back also, so you've got Jeff Heisong here, you got Joseph Morales, you got Yari Brupacher. I haven't mentioned Yari tonight as well. Right now moved himself into the top 10 in that 49 machine as well. So right now you've got kind of just a couple little pockets of pretty close battles here. You got a couple of drivers that are in their own little zip codes right now. Matt Wagner's trying to put himself into one of those, as well as he's been able to clear that 5 of Charles Teed. He's got about 3 seconds in front of him, a second behind him, so he's got a nice little clean section of track right now. And right now the one driver off sequence, Steve, is that 6 of Bud Steele. Again, we saw him pit early on lap number 18, so I believe he's still going to have, no matter what, probably 3 more stops to make. But he is a bit off sequence, currently running in 9th, so we'll probably see him drop, of course, a couple spots once that all completes out.
I guess, unless he can come up with some kind of massive fuel saving strategy.
I mean, you never know with these guys. Let's say they're always onto something. So one thing I am going to check here is going to be lap times. And so I'm comparing the laps between Henry Bennett and Craig Forsyth. Again, that's first and second right now. And so the last couple, it's kind of split between them. So basically you can see we'll update here real quick. And let's say the first couple of laps, Craig was actually gaining on Henry. But these last 2 laps, though, actually, Henry's actually been able to stretch the lead back out again. So let's say kind of an early gain for Henry, or for Craig, I should say. Now Henry able to kind of recover and go back the other way here. So we'll have to keep an eye and see how those lap times continue on. But right now, like you said, though, this battle is ongoing here. You've got Nick DeGroot chasing Anders. You even got now Michael Spell, who I believe pitted a second time, Steve. I believe possibly a pit penalty for the 88, unfortunately. That's now put him or actually 3 laps down, I'm sorry. As now here goes Nick DeGroot, going to try to grab the spot from the 10 car nearing 3.
And Anders is not fighting.
Yeah, I think that's again the respect being shown by the drivers here. So I think that's Anders saying, "All right, I know what you're in the battle for, so you go on ahead here." I say just the respect you see from these drivers. Just hats off to all of them. So right now, it's again all pretty spread out here. Now next for Nick is going to set his sights on Craig Forsyth. But what could happen here, depending on, of course, how this race plays out, though, Steve. that I guess you could call subpar qualifying time from Nick DeGroot, that could actually bounce back in his favor right now. He is shown as our highest climber, 7 spots from his starting position. Closest one to him is Joseph Morales, who's in +5 from his starting spot, and then Matt Wagner +4. So I'll say that might be one of those things where it didn't quite go to plan for Nick, but might be able to gain a bonus point out of it when it's all said and done.
And I think he's clearly the second fastest car on the track, if not the fastest.
Yeah, I mean, he's making really, really good time, Steve, and that's a really good point to make. Last time by, he ran a 94 to Henry's 92, and that's in a little bit of dirty air. Of course, gets a bit of a benefit of the draft on the straights. In the turns, though, you can see the wake that he's got behind that 27 of Craig Forsyth. So he's going to be getting time on the straightaways, losing time in the turns. As Gary Corley hits pit road in that number 7 machine. I'd say I don't believe that's a scheduled stop for Gary. But you're right, though. I think that 89 car hasn't been able to show exactly his full potential yet. We'll take a look at Gary. Car looks to be in decent shape, so I'm not sure what happened for Gary. I don't believe that's a scheduled stop for him as he hits pit road. We'll continue to keep an eye on this battle for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th as they still stay within about a second of one another.
And looking at the times behind the leader, it looks like Jim Brooks is pretty close to going a lap down. So whatever problem he was having before his pit stop, it looks like he's still having issues.
Yeah, I think you're right, because right now he is about a quarter of a straightaway at best. So you see him coming out of turn number 2, and there's Henry in the background. So not too far right now, showing probably about a couple seconds away from being lapped right now. So he's about 24 seconds off the leader. Lap times are about 26 seconds. So right now about a 2-second distance between them. So now the question, of course, is what does Jim do here? Do you fight to stay on the lead lap, or what's the best approach to take on that one? We'll have to kind of wait and see on that. As Craig Forsyth, he is under pressure now here, Steve. Nick DeGroot wants to get that second spot, get that clean air, and see if he can chase down Henry.
And something that happened when we were watching all the good racing going on, Michael Spell came off of turn 2, got loose, and unfortunately that sent him down into the grass, and he went into the inside wall, tore up the left side of his car. So I see that he had to take a tow.
Yeah, the fact that he went to the inside that let the race stay under green. So we continue caution free for the moment as Bud Steele hits pit road. Again, you were watching it, so we saw Nick, he sent it into turn 1 that last time, but I tried to see if he could force anything on Craig. I think right now, I wouldn't say desperation is setting in, but I think he is starting to feel like he needs to make this move sooner than later on that 27 car and just hasn't found the spot to do so yet.
Yeah, I'm sure he noticed that he's losing time to the leader following behind Craig.
Yeah, so now the question, of course, is for Henry. Like you said, we don't know for sure. I mean, there's no formal obligation if you're on the tail end of the lead lap to give up your spot. I'm saying, especially when you're a playoff contender, it just makes it that much trickier as well. So we'll have to I'm watching right now the interval between Jim and Henry. It's holding pretty steady at the moment, but you wonder at some point, is Henry going to start getting into the aero wash of that 51 car as well, maybe slowing down his progress? But what this battle between the 27 and the 89 has been doing is it's actually brought Anders right back into the mix here as well in that 10 car, because he's been running lap times pretty much on par, if not quicker than these guys, as well as the leader here. So, and actually I believe last time by quickest car though, which honestly no surprise, a lot of clean air on the front nose of that car, Matt Wagner. He's also trying to bring himself into that mix with these guys up front.
And I'm showing Matt is about 2.5 seconds behind these guys.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, he's a ways away still, but if he can keep clicking off a 10th or 2 every lap, I mean, it's gonna get there. So I'm gonna watch lap times again. This time looks like 2/10 quicker than Craig that last time by. So I mean, it's definitely getting there. And actually, we're gonna jump up front because Nick's finally gotten underneath that 27 car. Now, how aggressive do you be to try to get this pass done? You see Nick, he's going to try to keep the power down on the inside, try not to lose the exit speed, and he's going to stay side by side with Craig here back into turn number 1. So this is going to be crucial for him to try to get a great exit off of 2 to try to get that spot. You can see they're fighting for it, and they still stay side by side, Steve.
Yeah, that was tough. I mean, Nick did a great job keeping his momentum coming off the inside of turn 1 and 2, but this is really rough to try and make this pass on the inside here.
As we almost start lap number 2 of those two running side by side, but it took some effort, but Craig's going to prevail here. So Nick's going to have to regroup and go back after, and with that battle, they lost about 3 to 4 tenths over Henry. Henry did just get around that 51 of Jim Brooks, so Henry's got a little bit of clean air again back on the front wing of that 007 car, and you can see that lead now up to about 4.2 seconds as these guys are starting to try to get it settled back in. And the next thing, Steve, we talked about the fuel window. We're at lap number 61 here. We talked about that 33 or so range. This might be the time to make the gamble. Nick tried to see if he could pass Craig on track. Almost got there, couldn't quite do it. Maybe time to make a pit stop strategy, try to pull that undercut possibly, or if Craig pits early, try to do the overcut. It looks like Jimmy Drynan. I believe Alec Coates just got around him. So move Alec now into the into the 7th position. And yeah, so right now, looks like there was an incident entering the pits, but looks like everything's cleared out. So again, staying green here. Now just going to be trying to keep an eye on who's hitting pit road when, because that's about to start getting busy.
Looks like Matt Wagner is catching these guys, and
oh yeah, it's visibly closer. Yeah, he's visibly closer. I think he's within about a second of him now, Steven. What that's going to do for Matt is that's going to start giving him some draft down the straightaways as well, pick up some speed a little bit more here. Yari Brupacher, he hits pit road in the 49 machine from, I believe, just outside the top 10. So again, at this point now we're going to be watching. I believe the first of these drivers to pit will likely be Alec Coates. He pit first the last time by, and then I think it'll be around Craig Forsyth, Anders Arhus. I think that'll be the second set of drivers to pit. Like I said, if I'm Nick DeGroot, I think at this point you might have to consider gambling and try to undercut that 27 car and try to get that track position, because that's how he was able to get around. I believe get around Anders that last time on the first set of stops.
So they're all going to have to take one more stop after this.
Correct. Yeah. Nobody can make it to the end from here, even with this next stop. Even if you stretched it, it's still going to be one more stop after the second round, which we've got now. Also, Jeff Heisong, Joseph Morales, they've hit pit road, so they've completed their second set of pit stops. But yeah, the rest of our leaders up front have yet to do so. So we're going to have a little bit of a mixed bag here. Old tires with low fuel, fresh tires with full fuel. So that's going to be the next kind of the thing, and especially when they start cycling out in the middle of the group. You see Jeff Heisong, he's merged back on right with the 89 car and the 10 car. So that's going to put Nick DeGroot in a little bit of a tough situation here.
Yeah, Nick DeGroot seems to, I don't know if he burned his stuff up trying to get by Craig Forsyth, but he definitely seems to be a little bit more off pace now.
Yep,
Craig
and here
Forsyth
it goes.
Just hit the pits.
Yep, as I was going to say, is I think that was probably Nick's opportunity to try to do something different. Craig's going to try to see if he can protect it, I think. And that's something you can also do, is you can kind of do the U-pit earlier. He's also going to bring Matt Wagner in with him, as well as Charles Teed. So they're all pitting here, coming to lap number 68. As Henry Bennett stays out on track, but I suspect we'll probably see him in very soon, but actually he's going to stay out this time by, so we're going to have a lot of drivers here pinned a lap or more down, Steve, with Henry, with the lead he's had going into all of this. And so I think what we're seeing as well from Nick DeGroot here is he's going to try to run a little further here, see if maybe he can make something happen on an alternate strategy.
He's lost so much time, though, and I think, in my opinion, he should have pitted before Matt Wagner and Craig Forsyth.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how this all cycles around. So we're going to wait before we update everything, because right now, it's been Henry Bennett, Nick DeGroot, Anders Arhus are still staying out. And then you've also got Jimmy Drennan, Jack Walls, James Ledford, and Jim Brooks, who have yet to make their second set of pit stops as well. As again, Henry's just really stretching the field number here. And I think this is a smart call, though, from Henry. He had such a lead. There's no real sense to kind of gamble here. Because, again, if anyone makes a mistake on pit road, you don't want to be trapped a lap down. So right now, like I said, right now we have 6 cars on the lead lap with the way this pit cycle currently is unfolding.
Yeah, and he can afford to stay out because he's the closest competitor to him is 6 seconds behind, so he's got plenty of gap to burn up there.
Yeah, as Henry does hit pit road, Nick DeGroot stays out now, so that's going to give Nick a lap lead as well. So that's going to be a bonus point in the basket for the 89 car. I say also Henry brought in Anders Arhus, Jimmy Drynen's also in, so that's going to now leave, I believe, just Nick actually as the last driver to make his scheduled pit stop. And he is pretty slow here, Steve. I think he may have ran this thing 1 lap too far in fuel.
I think so too, because it definitely looked like he's out of gas.
Yeah, this car is coasting right now, so he gained a bonus point for leading a lap, but I think this is really going to hurt this number 89 car. It's going to hurt him on the points for sure. So we'll wait and see once he gets to pit road where everything cycles through. But I suspect, unfortunately, I think we're going to see Nick fall out of the top 5 at least, and possibly even worse, as right now Henry Bennett's back out on track, but he's in a pretty good group of traffic here. He's got Bud Steele to his outside. He's got the 83 of Jack Wells right in front of him, as Henry takes the lead back over as Nick does hit pit road. But yeah, I say definitely a big loss here under the pit stop cycle for Nick. So we'll keep an eye and see where he cycles out completely. But right now it's going to be now Henry Bennett, Craig Forsyth, and Matt Wagner as our top 3. Charles Teed a little further back in 4th. And we'll watch to see Nick DeGroot. Here he comes exiting pit road now. And it looks like he's going to come out right next to Jari Brupacher. So that's going to be a battle for the 7th position. So unfortunately for Nick, was battling for pretty much the 2nd spot. He's going to drop about 5.
Yep, and he's going to be way off the lead now.
Yeah, it looks like about 17 seconds off the lead. So, I mean, I think that's a net loss of probably about, 13-something seconds, I'd say, because I think he was about 4 or so off before it. So, yeah, that's a huge, unfortunately, a huge, I would say, I guess, yeah, mistake, unfortunately, for Nick's probably an honest way to put it. I say now he's also in some traffic as well. Didn't even get the clean air that he'd be hoping for with that mistake. Now he's going to fight another car with that 49 machine, so... yeah, I mean, the laps are ticking off quick here, Steve. We're just about at 50 to go. The next time by is right here. Henry Bennett's going to put us at 50 to go, and he's got now about a 4-second gap over Craig Forsyth. I'll say so now Craig's going to be watching his mirrors for that 11 car of Matt Wagner.
Now, I wonder how many people are going to just try and split this in 2.
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm trying to debate if splitting it's gonna be the best way, but again, like for me, I'm paranoid about an untimely caution. We saw how many drivers that actually trapped a lap down before the leaders pitted. So I kind of think at this rate, if you're Henry, I think you run this thing out as far as you can, and then you instead of then you just put basically the max fuel you need to get to the end. So I don't think they're gonna need to top it off to the brim. He'll probably need to get about, I would say. Well, I mean, whatever, pretty much if he's pitted on lap number 71, we're on lap 78 now. We've seen, I'm trying to do math here. This is dangerous, Steve. I think he probably needs about 20 or so laps of fuel on his final stop to make it to the end, instead of what we've seen before, about that low to mid 30s or so. So we also have another very important battle coming up here right now, Steve. You got Joseph Morales. He's at the tail end of the lead lap right now, and he's catching Jeff Hysong. But the problem is he's also got the leader starting to chase him down. So again, you're kind of in between a rock and a hard place. If you're Joseph, you want to pass that 18 car, and you want to stay in the lead lap. But you're always worried about, of course, impeding the leader. So what you could maybe do if you're Joseph here is maybe if you can let the leader Henry Bennett by you, and then try to use him kind of as that leader there, let him get around Jeff Hysong and try to follow him through.
I always kind of look at it, as long as you're the first car a lap down, it's not that bad, because you'll get the lucky dog if a caution comes out.
Yeah, I was saying that, and that's exactly right. I mean, the only downside, of course, is that you then have to restart at the tail end, the longest line. If you stay on the tail end lead lap, you kind of get that free wave around. So there are kind of pros and cons of each there. But yeah, right now he's still hanging on to that tail end, but it doesn't look like it'll be for too much longer because Henry's got a great run. He's going to peak inside here in 3. We'll see if he can get the power down to try to complete that pass. And it looks like he's got a solid exit, but not quite enough. Yeah, I think he's going to take a look here in 1, though.
Yeah, Joseph just keyed up. I think he told him to go ahead.
So trying to watch on lap times. Last time by Craig was about 2/10 quicker, and yeah, I think now Joseph is rolling out of it. Allow Henry to take that spot around. So that's going to now leave us just 9 cars on the lead lap here, Steve. Caution free thus far. Everybody's pretty spaced out, Steve. So I'm looking at the intervals of our lead lap drivers and some that are lap or more down. It's pretty much about a second or so between everybody on track. It's kind of that steady little conveyor belt. There's a few cars that are kind of in traffic, like Charles Teed's right now trying to get around Bud Steele. It's not for a position, but you can see just right now we've kind of got a bit of a conveyor belt for these cars around the track here right now.
Yeah, and this is kind of what I anticipated was going to happen because of just how technical it is to get around this track.
Yeah, it's definitely a tricky one for sure here, like I said, with the 2 different turns and just how different each one of them is. So now let's say... Now it's coming up to Jeff Heisong here. So now if you're Jeff, same thing. What do you do here? You're in the playoffs here. So you don't really want to just roll over and Henry go. He's got plenty of clean air and clean track in front of him. If he can try to keep some pace up in that car, maybe it'd make life a little bit more difficult for Henry Bennett. Which I was saying, actually, I believe we got a car that may have just gone off track. We'll see if it brings out potential yellow. No, it looks like he's hit pit road, so I think we're going to get away with it. I'll say Bud Steele had a moment, but whatever it was, it's already been taken care of. And that brief moment we looked at it, the 07 got around the 18 car, so now put it down to now 8 cars on the lead lap.
Yeah, I think Jeff realized that he just wasn't fast enough to hold Henry back there, so he did the respectful thing, ran very high in 3 and 4, and let Henry Bennett go.
So the best part for Henry is if you look out the front windshield of this car, it is just clear sailing, Steve, for about a full straightaway until the next car is going to be the 88 of Michael Spell. So right now, if you're Henry Bennett, you can just focus forward. You don't have to worry about anything around you. You just hit your marks and just run your laps right now. Everything's looking really good for you as things run. Then if you're like me, if you're in this position, which is very rare, you wonder, okay, when is something going to happen that's going to change all this and kind of screw up what I've got going on here, basically. So right now, they'll say, we'll run through the field here real quick, Steve. Obviously, our race leader, Henry Bennett, was able to take the lead on that initial kick using that top side in turn 1 and 2. Up into second is that 27 of Craig Forsyth. We saw him put on a great battle with that 89 of Nick DeGroot. In third is the 11 of Matt Wagner. He has gained 6 positions thus far tonight. In fourth is the number 5 of Charles Teed. He's kind of fallen off these guys a little bit now. It's about a 5-second gap between himself and Matt. In sixth, only about a second behind Alec Coates. So he's been having a really solid but quiet night. He started 5th, currently running 5th, and only a second behind Charles Teed. And then second behind him is our pole sitter, the 10 of Anders Arhus. Again, kind of in that between a rock and a hard place. Really fast, but you, of course, don't want to play an outcome in the championship with some of our leaders. So Anders kind of trying to balance that as best he can right now, running in 6th. And then we saw, unfortunately, Nick DeGroot ran a little too far in the field, wanted to get that bonus point, cost him a lot of track position. Right now, he is in 7th position. He's starting to close back up on some of these guys, but he's going to have a ways to go until he gets to Anders, about 2 seconds there. And then he's got a nice gap over Jari Brupacher, about 5 seconds. And Jari, of course, the last car on the lead lap right now in that 49 machine. Still got about a full straightaway over Henry Bennett, so he's still got some breathing room there. Then we'll go to our first car 1 lap down. We actually have a pretty good battle for that lucky dog spot, Steve, which is between the 83 of Jack Walls. We've been talking about him as well, one of those non-playoff drivers, but having a great run tonight. In 9th, Jeff Heisong, I believe, just lost that spot a lap or so ago to him, who is now down into that 10th position. And then you've got Joseph Morales in 11th, plus 6 for him, though, on the night. So he's been gaining a lot of spots during the race. James Ledford as well, also plus 6 in 12th. And then our other playoff driver, the 51 Jim Brooks, just whatever's happened tonight just hasn't worked out for him as he sits 13th. I believe the last car 1 lap down. And then Michael Spell, though, multiple laps down in the 88 car, still making some laps. Same thing goes for the actually, no, I believe the 6 of Bud Steele may have retired from tonight. So I think that actually, I think that cycles us through back to where we had. And I think, let me see, I think it's Jimmy Drennan's in the pits. Not sure if he had something happen, Steve, or if this might be a scheduled stop here right at the edge of the window.
Yeah, not well. Jimmy Drynan, I'm showing, is 20 laps down.
So we probably missed something at some point.
I think so.
I'm sorry, guys. We do have some pit stop. Oh, I think something happened to the 51. Oh, yeah, I think Jim may have made a mistake on pit entry. But luckily, clean track around him, so he's going to gather back up and hit pit road. That was exactly what we talked about. Yari Brubacher, though, he has just hit pit road. He's leaving now. So this is, again, this is the mixed bag right now. I think drivers that are cycling in early are going to go a little further as well. So we're seeing a lot of different strategies here. Michael Spell, I believe, is hitting pit road as well. So now we'll be watching to see when our leaders start to make their pit stop cycles. Like I said, though, I think if you're Henry Bennett, you just let everybody pit until you absolutely have to, because you've got a lot of time to play with right now. About 5-second gap over that 27 to Craig Forsyth.
I noticed that Michael Spell kind of almost did a full spin out in the middle of the access road to the pits. But then I looked and saw he's 6 laps down, so and there's nobody else within a few laps of him, so he didn't really hurt himself there.
And so here's Nick DeGroot. Ran long last time, too long actually. He's going to react this time. He's going to come early, Steve, so we'll see if this maybe will counteract a little bit what he did before. Maybe be able to gain him some of that track position that he had lost. Of course, he needs this thing to cycle through and stay green for this to work for him, as he's going to hit pit road from that 7th spot roughly. But up front, the Anders Arhus is starting to catch Alec Coates. This is right now 4th and 5th on track as Charles Teed. Charles just hit pit road as well, so one of our further up drivers of the first of those to make that green flag pit stop.
And we know they can all make it from here, so.
Yeah, at this point, this is the final stop. I think, yep, here comes Anders Arhus. He's going to hit pit road as well. As you can see, watch him run the access road. It looks like he's done a good job. Now he's got to get it slowed down before the cone. As that's always a little dangerous proposition there as well, but looks like he's managed that very nicely. And so now we'll be watching our race leaders. Craig Forsyth, he stays out. Matt Wagner stays out. And it looks like we'll keep an eye on Alec Coates. And Alec's going to hit pit road, Steve, so that's going to be our 4th place driver hitting the pits here.
Boy, and I just looked at the interval between Craig Forsyth and Henry Bennett, and that's gone to 6 seconds. So Henry Bennett is he's killing these guys.
Yeah, he's on a tear now. And again, I think he's had such a good amount of clean air for such a long time now that he's been able to really make some solid laps. So I think what we're seeing right here is you have some of those drivers a little further back, gambling a little bit on their pit stop cycle. And then you have the drivers that are in that top 3 feeling pretty confident. They said, you know what, we don't want to get trapped with a potentially poor timed yellow. So I think that's why we see the leaders staying out. So I think that's what we're going to see here. I think if you're Matt Wagner, Craig Forsyth, Henry Bennett, again, you wait till you absolutely have to pit. As Henry just crossed line here, we got 25 left to go in this one. And again, we're going to be watching this, because here's actually a really interesting battle here, Steve. We mentioned Nick DeGroot short pitting in that number 89 car. And it has worked for him. He's gotten around Alec Coates. He's gotten around Anders Arhus. And he is right on the rear wing now of Charles Teed as well. So it was a good call there to try to kind of go opposite of what he did earlier and be able to gain some track position with that clean air and those fresher tires for a couple laps. That's Craig Forsyth and both Matt Wagner hit pit road here, Steve, coming to 24 to go.
And that should gain them hopefully a little bit of time on Henry Bennett because they'll come out with fresher tires.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is Henry's still in clean air here. And the other thing that's going to happen here, we'll watch the ticker on the left here, everyone. Now with Matt Wagner and everybody pitting, Henry has the entire field a lap down. Again, he still has to pit, but he also went a lot longer than the other drivers here, so he can still stretch this thing out a handful more laps, I believe. So as things run right now, he has the whole field trapped a lap down. Jack Walls is actually in that second position. He also stretched his fuel out a little bit, but is a lap down. Just to say, I think with his starting position, starting towards the back, didn't have that track position he needed. But I mean, that's just showing the tear that this 007 Henry Bennett is on. So I'll say we'll try to keep an eye on him. Here he comes. He's going to hit pit road now, which I think this is going to kind of be a sigh of relief for these guys, because this is where you do not want a yellow, so they want this to cycle out. But now I'm going to jump here back to this battle between Nick DeGroot and Charles Teed, because I'll say this is a very familiar situation for Nick here, trying to chase down a quick car and get some more track position back.
And I guess Jack Walls has not pitted yet, or has he?
Correct. No, Jack Walls has not made his final stop yet, so I think he's the last car to pit, or that needs to pit, I should say. But again, I think if you're Jack here, you roll a dice, you stretch this thing as far as you go. It's actually going to cycle Jack right now this best time by back to the lead here in the 83 car, maybe get a bonus point in that car as well. And yeah, I mean, why not save fuel and try to stretch this thing as far as you can. We'll see if he comes in this time. Yeah, here he comes. He's going to hit pit road as well, which will complete the cycle. But yeah, I mean, why not gamble? You never know if and when something's going to happen. So I like the call from Jack here to do that. So he's going to get the lead taken back away by Henry Bennett. And it's going to be just like you said as well, Steve. We're going to watch to see what the interval is between Craig and Henry. And it was about 5 seconds. Now it's down to about 3.5, just again with Henry running along there. So I mean, it's not a huge difference between the short run and the long run pace. But yeah, obviously made a decent amount of difference. And Nick DeGroot, though, still about that half second behind Charles Teed. Anders Czar, who's trying to see if he can get Alec Coates for that 6th spot. So right now we got three pretty close battles right now, Steve. You got the 3 and the 10. You've got the 5 and the 89, and then you got the 27 and the 11. So we got three good little battles here on track that we're going to be trying to keep an eye out here.
I have to say, it's a pretty nice recovery from Nick DeGroot, because after his running out of gas before, he was 17 seconds back from the leader. Now he's 10.2.
Yeah, and again, I think that was Nick's. I think he knew, he's like, I want to get this lap led, just might as well get it taken care of. But just underestimated the fuel mileage that he had, or maybe overestimated the fuel mileage that he had. So it's one of those things where you maybe wonder, could he have maybe not done that, pitted when Henry did that last time by, and then maybe try to do it on that final stop of the race. So but like you said, though, I mean, regardless of how it turns out, it's been a great recovery. He fell back to about, I believe, the 8th position. He's climbed his way back up into 5th, battling for 4th here, so doing everything he can. But yeah, right now these guys are pretty trapped, it looks like. Say Anders hasn't been able to find a way to get around Alec. And same thing for Charles Teed has been able to hold off Nick DeGroot. Nick hasn't found a way to get around him. And then Craig Forsyth, Matt Wagner, those two holding pretty solidly as well in 2nd and 3rd. And Henry just doing Henry things, Steve. I think just ran the fastest lap of the race.
that would be typical, wouldn't it?
Yeah, he ran a 25.61 to Craig's 25.84, Matt's 25.90. I think Matt previously had the fastest lap of the 25.64, and then like I said, Henry ran that 25.61 to best it. So it's just one of those things. I mean, when things are working for you, and they're obviously working for Henry right now, it's not even, how do you word it? You're not even really pushing the car when you get these amazing fast laps out of it and run those purple lap times. So when everything's clicking, it all seems to work. So like I said, for Henry now, he's got 15 to go, coming to 14 to go. He just wants to let these laps click off and then kind of see where the chips fall with who's where. But I don't think we're done with these battles yet, though, because I'm watching Anders. He started to close the gap now again on Alec Coates, and then Nick DeGroot is starting to close that gap as well on Charles Teed.
So the top 6 are all playoff drivers. Cream has definitely risen to the top. But we've got a couple 2-car battles going on among the playoff drivers, and I wonder whether any of them are going to end up swapping spots.
Yeah, I'm curious as well. Right now, I think actually looks like the closest battle now is Nick DeGroot. He's got to the rear wing of that 5 of Charles Teed. Now we saw him work so hard on Craig Forsyth. Has he learned anything from that to maybe try to make something happen as well? The thing that Teed is also kind of working for him and working against him is he's got some draft in front of him. I believe that's the 60 car, but it's also, I think, giving him some dirty air, and that's going to allow Nick DeGroot. He's going to peek inside. Couldn't get the exit speed off, but he is there. This is definitely going to be a battle here for that 4th and 5th position between the two of these drivers here as we're approaching very soon 10 laps to go.
10 laps to go, so the pressure is on the guys that are in the behind position here to try and gain that one spot.
Yeah, and the thing is, though, I mean, if you're Nick DeGroot, though, you can't be too aggressive because also you got Alec Coates now roaring up on you as well. So if you bobble, Alec's going to be there to capitalize. So, I mean, like I said, I mean, that 3 car, he's looking to say, hey, man, if these guys mess up or make a mistake, oh, here goes Nick. He's going to make a big move underneath the 5 car entering 3. I think Charles had a little bobble there fighting with that 60 car as they go side by side through 3 and 4 here.
And Nick just couldn't make the inside work.
I say he's gonna have memories of Craig Forsyth in that same position. I'll say, but again, this is where he's got to be careful because this is now you see you've got Alec Coates there, you've got Anders Arhus. I mean, any of these guys you could go from 4th to 7th right here with just one mistake. So again, he's gonna send it into turn number 3, see if he can make something happen. We'll see if Charles can keep the momentum here on the top side.
This is where, if you're Nick DeGroot, you're trying everything you possibly can, altering your line, altering your entry and your exit, and he's at least holding his own right now.
Yeah, these guys are doing a very good job, but look what it's doing, though. It's bringing Alec Coates right here now. So, like I said, if either of these two bobble, which I say it looks like Nick is going to grab that spot, we'll see if Charles can respond to it. But you see Alex got the inside. Oh, contact.
Oh, they were almost 3 wide there.
That was almost 3 wide, and it was almost ended in tears there as well. So now to see, do any of these drivers have any damage from that little bit of contact between the 5 and the 3? That could open the door for Anders Arhus. He might be able to snag a top 5 out of this. As you see, Alec try to run the low side there, had a little bobble. He's going to gather it back up. So obviously focusing on this because this is by far right now the best battle we have on track. Matt Wagner still holding about 0.6 off of Craig. Henry's about 5 seconds in front of them, and we still got 7 to go. So we're going to keep an eye on this battle here for a little while longer. Oh, Alec gets a great run, Steve, off of 4 using the top side. He's going to duck to the inside now. We'll see if he can make the low side work, or if that momentum is going to work on the top side. It gets tight, and it looks like Charles is going to live to fight another day there in the 5.
Yeah, I feel like Alec is a little bit faster right now, but unless this may work, I think this may work.
Oh, that's a nice move by Alec to work the top side there. I wonder also, like I said, I think Charles maybe a little bit of possible front wing damage might be hurting his top end, because it seemed like that car just didn't have the overall top end speed there. So that's going to drop Charles, unfortunately, to 6th, move Alec up into 5th. However, we can't forget about our race leader, though. We'll see. We'll keep an eye on the intervals and everything as well. Henry Bennett, though, he's got 4 to go here, Steve. 3.5 to go at this point. But yeah, right now, say these guys here, they're all about 0.3 apart with Alec Coates, Charles Teed, Anders Arhus as they run. Matt Wagner, Craig Forsyth, still about a second or so between the two of them. Looks like they've really kind of got settled in here. But we've got our leader, though. He just crossed line there, 3 to go here.
And I'm thinking, if you're Matt Wagner, you're like, if I could just throw a rope out, pull myself a little bit closer.
Yeah, exactly right. So right now, though, like I said, we mentioned right now for Henry Bennett, he's just got to keep it clean these final 2 laps. So he's done everything right tonight to qualified second, was able to get that nice exit off of 2 to take the lead on that opening lap, and then from there he's just been able to kind of set sail here. Capitalize on a little bit of a mistake from Nick DeGroot. Don't know if Nick would ever have been able to get to him. Unfortunately, we won't be able to find that out tonight. But he's going to be waiting to get this white flag here and do one more lap here around Worldwide Technology Raceway. things are kind of evening out in the back here, Steve. Looks like Matt's kind of rolled off too. I think Matt's just going to try to play it safe here. I think try to keep that third place finish behind Craig. But let's say Anders Arhus, Craig Charles Teed still having a good fight as well. But we're going to be watching Henry Bennett here out of 4. He is going to have pretty much a picture-perfect race tonight. Henry Bennett getting the win here tonight at Worldwide Technology Raceway. Here comes Craig Forsyth going to grab the 2nd position. Matt Wagner 3rd. An up and down night for Nick DeGroot is going to end on an up. He's going to finish in the 4th position with Alec Coates there right behind him in 5th. Now it looks like Charles Teed just going to hold off Anders Arhus in 6th, Anders in 7th. And then our final driver on the lead lap is going to be that number 49 of Jari Brupacher in the 7th position. But man, I don't know. There's not much you can say about Henry Bennett tonight. I mean, he put on a clinic here.
Yes, he did. And I have to say, Craig Forsyth quietly had an amazing race tonight. He did really great. And Matt Wagner gained a few spots to finish where he did. And as we said before, great recovery by Nick DeGroot. Alec Coates and Charles Teed also excellent job tonight. So 6 playoff drivers in the top 6 spots.
Yeah, that's what's going to make. And I mean, that might be where that, again, every point matters for Nick DeGroot. I mean, that could wind up being a good thing. It's hard to say. You kind of feel like he maybe gave up a couple of spots to get that 1 point. So we'll have to wait and see how it all shakes out. And I'm saying while Henry's perfecting his donuts here on the front stretch, we'll go over our final results of tonight's race. As we mentioned, though, on the lead lap, it's going to be Henry Bennett over Craig Forsyth, Matt Wagner in 3rd, Nick DeGroot 4th, Alec Coates in 5th, Charles Teed 6th, then Anders Arhus, Jari Brupacher rounding out our lead lap drivers. And then the first of those, 1 lap down, you have Jack Walls again, had a good run, just unfortunately the track position didn't work out for him to kick it off. And then Jeff Heisong rounding out the top 10. And then the remainder of the field, you have James Ledford, Joseph Morales, Jim Brooks, not the night he was looking for. Then you got Michael Spell, Bud Steele, Jimmy Drynan, and Gary Corley. Unfortunately, early evenings, ends to their evenings as well. So, so kind of a shorter field here tonight. But yet again, another caution-free one here tonight at Worldwide Technology Raceway, a.k.a. Gateway. I don't think I'll ever be able to get used to doing that full name. However, Steve, we're going to kick things off with one of your biggest fans here. That's going to be the number 11 third place finisher of Matt Wagner. So we're going to roll Matt on in here. He started in the 11th position, 9th position actually. Mathis Hard pulls it off into the 3rd position. Matt, was it just the track position that you needed at the beginning to maybe have a chance tonight, or obviously going caution free makes it tough to do a lot, starting kind of towards the mid pack there. But I mean, take us through your race and how did everything go for you this evening?
Well, my plan was to stay in tire conservation mode pretty much the whole race, and I felt like I was a little bit quicker toward the end of the run, but watching the lap times and toward the end of the run, I was identical to Henry. So Craig was a little slow toward the end of the run. I was hoping that would be to my advantage toward the end, but it just didn't work out that way.
Do you think because it was a shorter run there, those last 2 runs, that kind of gave him a slight advantage because you didn't go quite as far and he didn't wear his tires quite as much?
No, I burned the tires off. I really did, trying to make up some time. And, that was a bad move by me, but lesson learned.
So we noticed there wasn't a huge drop on the first, on the kind of the fresh tires to the end of the run. Obviously, it sounds like you could feel it behind the wheel basically. I mean, what was the difference from when you had the fresh tires in full fuel to when you were running low on fuel and of course your tires being worn out? How did it compare for you on track? Like, did you have to do anything different throughout the course of the run? Maybe any adjustments, things like that?
Yeah, a little bit of an adjustment there. Probably the front bar, and then if you change up your line in turn 1, and it'd work out. Running the higher groove does work out. You don't want to go too far on the jacker. If you try to adjust your rear bar, you're going to be spinning toward the wall, and I didn't want to do that. It was a fun race, man. I really enjoyed it. Being that long green flag run, that was crazy. That was insane. 125 laps here. I applaud everybody. I really do.
Yeah, people did a great job tonight. We only saw maybe a couple that I can remember that had trouble and ran off onto the inside of the track.
Yeah, I saw a few, but other than that, it was very clean. I applaud every driver. What happened to Nick DeGroot? I was quite curious. I saw him, and then all of a sudden he just dropped off like a rock.
Nick DeGroot kind of pulled a Matt Wagner. He tried to stretch his fuel a little bit too far. He got it. He wanted to get that lap led, so he stayed out an extra lap on I think the second run, and got around to the back stretch, and we noticed that about halfway down the back stretch, he started slowing down. Like that's too soon to be slowing down for pit entry. So yeah, he ran out of gas, lost a ton of time.
Yeah, I would love to lead that lap. I didn't have the fuel mileage to do that.
Yeah, it was definitely a tough balance, and that's what we were talking about too. Is obviously he was able to get a lap lead, but you worry, of course, to how many potential positions he gave it. Because I mean, him and Craig they were going at it tooth and nail. There was a really good fight between the two of them. But yeah, so it was exciting. I say there's a little bit of everything on the pit strategy, like you said. It was to go caution free. I'm sure there's also a little bit of nerves. 'Cause I believe you and Craig try to stretch it as far as you could. Was that just of course to kind of cover the potential of a caution? Because whenever you get the pit entries where you use the access road and exits, it always opens up that potential for mistakes. Was that what you and Craig were thinking about on running it kind of long there at the end?
You're absolutely right. I don't need to say anything more. Because if I saw yellow, and that'll end up screwing me and Greg out of a nice finish. If he would have pitted early, we probably been SOL.
Well, it worked out very well for you, Matt. Say a solid top 3 finish tonight. So we're gonna give you the floor here, though. Any thanks and shouts you'd like to give for that run this evening?
Okay. I thank Area 51 for putting on a great race tonight. HyperX, Elmsy Gear, Twiley Designs, Bud Kicker. Guys, thank you very much. Steve, it's good to hear your voice again. Guys, y'all have a great night.
Thank you, Matt. And congrats on the top 3.
Oh, thank you, Steve. Appreciate it. Gail, have a good night.
You too, sir. All right. That's going to leave us one more driver to talk to. Unfortunately, I won't be able to have a chat with our racer, but I believe next week we'll be able to get an earful from him. But for now, we're going to grab the number 27 of Mr. Craig Forsyth. Started in the 4th position, finishes in 2nd. I think you probably had your hands full the most of anyone tonight with battles on track. I mean, that battle with you and Nick, that was a very hard fought one. To say, looked like a couple times looked like Nick had it, then you looked like you had it solidly again, and it would just go back and forth. I mean, how tense was it for you two there? And then, I mean, I'm guessing on your end, of course, being able to kind of come out on top on that one as a very enjoyable battle. But I mean, take us through that fight with you and Nick DeGroot there.
Oh gosh, that was probably. I told Nick in chat, is like that was probably the funnest 10 laps I've had in a long time. Because yeah, it's nice when you can get two drivers that know the limits of their cars side by side on a track that tight and dangerous. And yeah, that was super enjoyable. I didn't realize that he'd run out of fuel. I knew something had gone on, so that's unfortunate. So to have that happen, because it looked like our battle was going to keep going the whole way.
Yeah, it definitely looked like that was definitely something that was going to continue on. And then obviously from just being on the behind the wheel perspective, Steve and I noted that our top 6 drivers tonight were playoff contenders. So is that just knowing that maybe during a regular season you don't fight that hard, but knowing now that every point's going to be so crucial, is that kind of what maybe had you step up the aggression a little bit to try to hold that position for all it was worth?
Oh, the last half of the season has been so terrible for me that I'm just happy to get any result, especially after last week was gutting last week. So I'm definitely on the back foot of the playoff guys. So I knew I needed a good result. I didn't expect a second, honestly. I don't really like Gateway, and it's not a track I'm not normally good at the ovals with the one skinny corner, this one and Motegi. So it was nice to get a good result.
Well, you did good tonight. You reminded me of the old Craig Forsyth.
Oh, gee, thanks. I vaguely remember what I used to be like.
You're welcome.
I'd love to say, I've been able to get lots of practice in this summer, but I think that's what's been killing me the last couple months is so busy this summer, haven't been able to put the laps in.
Yeah, it's tough, and in these things, you definitely need to put the laps in, especially on a track like this.
Yeah, it's very important because it's not just a put your foot down and turn left and hang on to the draft track like some of the bigger ovals. On ones like these, you need to know your turn-in points, your braking points, your downshift points. Henry was on a different level tonight. He was, through 1 and 2, he was doing a line that I tried to replicate it on a couple laps, and he could carry so much speed around the corner. He knew exactly where to slow down and shift and get back on the gas, and couldn't replicate it at all. I had to go back to my standard low line entry for that, or low line exit for that. And he was on a different level.
Yeah, we noticed that he was taking a very late and high entry to the turn, and then kind of late apexing on the way off, which of course gave him a great run down the back straight and kept him from pushing out to the wall. But he made it look easy, but I know exactly what you're saying, because I've been in that kind of position too, where it's like, okay, how are they doing that? And then you try and do it, and you just can't get your car to do it.
You just sort of settle on, okay, obviously you do it not the way I'm doing it. There's a secret, and I need to figure it out. And that's just laps and laps.
So what gear were you going down to in 3 and 4, and what gear in 1 and 2?
Depending on how my entry was, usually it was third or fourth for 1 and 2, depending on how poorly I'd come into the corner, and 3-4 was always fifth.
Okay, that sounds pretty similar to what I was picking up in practice.
Yeah, for 3-4, if you can start your entry really high and back it up a bit, you can power your way the whole way around that corner, and that gets you good speed down the front stretch. I think Matt and I were discussing that I had the better pull out of 3 and 4, and he had the better pull out of 1 and 2, and between the two of us, we might have had a chance of catching Henry. Unfortunately, we're two people.
If you could just put your two best turns together, right?
Exactly.
Well, we'll work on the technology, see if we can find something to create the ultimate Craig and Matt hybrid. I don't know if the world's ready for that yet, but awesome job though tonight, Craig. Like I said, they obviously didn't open up the season the way you were hoping to, but a good bounce back, of course, with this one. So halfway through it, so we got 2 more to go till we get to that final race at Indy, of course. So I'll say still all to play for. You never know how these remaining 2 are going to go out. So just awesome job tonight. Definitely want to give you the floor. Any thanks and shouts that I could give for that run this evening.
No, I got to thank the Area 51 guys. As every time I'm up here, I say it's a good bunch of guys. If you're in iRacing and want to do Indy on Tuesday nights, this is the league to do it in. Good bunch of guys. Got to thank my team, lmcgear.com. I don't remember what the discount code is, but lightweight motorcycle camping gear, all the stuff you need for your camping trips on your motorbikes, and other stuff as well. And got to thank you guys. Always put on a good broadcast. And it's been a while since I've got to chat with you guys. So it's nice to be back up here.
Yeah, so I can't remember the code offhand either. However, if you are interested in buying any of that stuff, I'll say it'll show up on our outro videos that we've always got on our intro and outro. So definitely hit them up. Say good guy there and able to help a lot of people out. Say always nice to see him help out his fellow iRacers and league members as well. So Craig, enjoy this one. Look forward to seeing you next week, sir.
You betcha. I hope I end up talking to you guys again next week.
Great.
Stay safe.
Craig. Get some practice in.
You betcha.
All right, Steve, that is our second place finisher in that number 27 of Craig Forsyth. So we'll switch now kind of mid-burnout to our winner here tonight in that number 007 of Henry Bennett. Man, so unfortunately, won't be able to get an interview with Henry. I believe next week he'll be able to actually start talking to us again. I tried to pitch him to maybe do some AMSR for us for an interview, so he doesn't wake up his neighbors in the next room. But I'll say we'll have to do probably a half a dozen or so interviews worth into one next time we get a chance to chat with him. But I mean, what can we say though? I mean, just what a performance though by Henry. It's like he just, like you said, I think Nick maybe had the pace with him, but I mean Henry's able to get that qualifying lap in, and then from there just able to set sail and kind of just control the race there tonight. So just hats off to him and his guys, and yeah, it was a pretty impressive one performance by that car tonight, Steve.
Yeah, it was dominant. You know what you could do is pre-tape a post-race interview with him.
That's not a bad idea. Like, all right, Henry, give us an interview for first, second, third, and just give us your thoughts. I say I won't be able to pull it up on the official points on the overlay. However, after tonight's race, though, it's going to promote Henry Bennett now to the race, or to the points lead, I should say, by 13 over Nick DeGroot. And these two are starting to stretch it out a little bit, Steve. It's now 32 points for Matt Wagner in third off the lead, 38 for Charles Teed, 40 for Alec Coates, and 45 for Craig Forsyth in sixth. So say we got a really good battle here between third and sixth, but 1 and 2 are starting to separate themselves out from the rest of the field a little bit. So the other guys are going to either have to step it up a little bit or maybe hope for a little bit of some miscues from our top two in these final two races, I think, to be able to try to claw themselves back in to be able to be in contention for that finale at Indy.
Yeah, that's definitely a lot of points to try and make up. But, stranger things have happened, and it's definitely going to make these last two races pretty interesting to watch.
Yeah, I agree. Steve, as always, sir, it's a pleasure to have you back. I say it's always fun to have you kind of have you in my ear and have you kind of pick up takes that I'm not able to pick up on as well. So, yeah, glad to have you back here with me. Looking forward to the final two. And then I'm going to get my people to talk to your people, see if we can nail something down for next season as well, sir.
Well, thanks, Kyle. I'm glad to be back too, and hopefully there won't be any more weird health issues between now and the end of the season, so I can make the last two.
Sounds like a plan. Yeah, I'll let Button know that I'm going to be getting in touch with her. So let me know what her favorite cheats are, and we'll make something happen, Steve.
Sounds good.
All right, for everybody watching, thank you so much for supporting us here at Green White Checker TV, and of course, can't thank enough as well that the guys at Area 51, Dark Horse, and of course ESTV as well for partnering up with us as well to be able to broadcast this. Of course, with us on YouTube, they also have on their YouTube, on their Facebook, on their Twitch, and of course able to also stream it on their Roku and other devices. Be sure to check them out at ESTV. It's a great group of guys, really fun to be able to partner with them as well. So until then, we will be back on Thursday for race number 2 of the Premier Series. Until then, hope you all have a wonderful evening and have a good night.
Night, everybody.